Okay, all right. So let's get started. For quick recap of what we did yesterday, we finished with paging yesterday. So this figure tells you the whole idea of paging. Whenever you have a virtual address, it is divided into two parts. First is the page number, second is the offset. Offset remains same. The page number, it has to be mapped on frame number. You do that with the help of page table. And now there is a small part of page table which is placed in cache memory, which is called TLB. So you first look in TLB for the corresponding frame number. If you find it, well and good. If you don't find it, you go to the page table, figure out what is the frame number, do the address translation and access the memory. Okay. So with that, can you now solve this question and tell me the answer? Okay. I don't know how to reduce its size. Just a second. So now instead of the cache, you are given the hit ratio of TLB and the access time of TLB. So can you figure out what is the effective memory access time? Those of you who are online, you can write the answer in the chat window. Thirty-eight. So think in terms of total memory access time. Right? So one is when you need the frame number, right? Then you take that frame number and compute the exact memory address and fetch the data from there. So 60% of the times you find the relevant page in your TLB. 40% of the time you don't find that page in TLB, so you go back to the memory to access the page table, fetch your frame number from there, do the address translation, right, which is straightforward, and then access the memory to get the required data. So on an average, how much time will it take? So let me say your effective memory access time it is your time to get the frame number plus one memory access to get the data. So once you get the frame number, you can compute the exact physical address. Once you have the physical address of a particular virtual address, you do a memory access and obtain the data. So what is this value? Oh, this part is straightforward, right? Memory access, it takes you 80 milliseconds. So this one is 80. What about this one? So on an average, how much time will it take for you to fetch the frame number? 38. So how do we compute that? Yes. So 60% of the time you find it in the TLB plus remaining 40% of the time you access the TLB, you do not find it there, you go to the memory, so it is 10 plus 80, right? How much is it? 42, right? So it is 42. So don't forget that whenever you have a cache miss, or similarly whenever you have a TLB miss, you are still counting the access time of the TLB or the cache, because you are still accessing it to check whether the data is there or not. So that time will still be accounted for. Right? And in addition, you'll have the time which you are having to look up in the memory. Any doubts here? Okay. Now let's say, so till now, whenever you get this physical address, right? So to get this physical address, we were having 40 nanoseconds. For this memory access, you were having 80. So total it is how much here? So total it is 122 nanoseconds here in this particular case. Now, here, when you get the physical address, you access the memory. So many a times when you have the physical address, you do not access the memory directly. You might be looking into cache for that data. If you do not find in the cache, then you look in the memory. So how will your answer change if you assume that there is data which is present in cache? So I'm not talking about the small part of page table present in the cache. So note that cache has now both the things. It has some of your normal data and instructions which we were caching earlier also, and now it also has a small part of your page table which is called TLB. So assume that in general the hit ratio of your cache is 90% and access time of your cache is 10 milliseconds. So how will your answer change for the above question? So the whole difference is when you are getting the physical address now, you are not directly going to the main memory. You first check it in the cache. If you do not find it there, then you check in the main memory. Right? So how will your answer change? Anyone? So your first part remains the same, right? That 42 nanoseconds. So this 42 nanoseconds, it was your average time to fetch the frame number, to get the relevant frame number. So this gives you the physical address. Once you have the physical address now, you first check in cache and then in main memory. So now for your cache, the hit ratio is 90% and access time is 10 milliseconds. So what is the average access time of memory? So for 90% of the times you find it in the cache, which is 10. For the remaining 10% of the time you access the cache, you do not find it. You look in the memory, which takes you 80 milliseconds. So how much is this? 9 plus 9, right? 18. So now this is 42 plus 18, 60 nanoseconds. So do you see, with the help of cache, we have further dropped it from 122 nanoseconds to almost half, which is 60 nanoseconds. So that is how cache memory helps us in accessing your page table as well as your address, instructions and data faster. Okay, so let's move forward. So when we talked about contiguous memory allocation, there was no notion of how do processes share memory with each other, right? Now with the help of paging, two processes can share memory. Any idea how it can happen? So let us say there is a very big array, right, which is shared between two processes. How two processes can share it with the help of paging? So let's say here is your process 0, here is your process 1. Both of these processes have some pages, right? This is their virtual address space. So let's say page numbers, so it has location starting from virtual address 0, virtual address 1, so on and so forth. This process, it also has addresses starting from virtual address 0, virtual address 1, so on and so forth. And both of these processes, they will have their own page tables. Now, let us say you have this array Let's say the size of this array is equal to the size of one page. Let's say one page is 4 bytes, or let's say rather 4 kilobytes. So let's say you have an array which takes 4 kilobytes. It fits in one page. So how these both processes can share this array? Exactly, right? So if you look at this virtual address, right, it's virtual address as of now. So it does not occupy any particular physical memory. So to get the physical memory address, what you have to do, you always map these virtual addresses to the physical addresses. So let's say this page lies somewhere here in P0. Let's say it is page number 2, and this same page corresponding to this array lies somewhere here for this another process. Let's say it is page number 13. All you have to do is in their respective page tables. So in the page table for P0, page number 2 will be mapped to certain physical memory frame, right? So let's say 2 is mapped to physical memory frame of 101. Same thing we can do with the virtual address of this particular process. So for this particular process, this page is present at the virtual address 13. I'm just sorry. Sorry, not virtual address 13, the page number 13. So page number 13 for the second process, it can also be mapped to your physical frame 101, right? So although for both of these processes, right, this particular page, it is in the address space, virtual address space of both the processes. But when you talk in terms of the actual physical memory, there is only one frame which is mapped to both of these pages. Right, so whenever you make any change here in this array, it will be reflected here in your actual physical memory, same holds here. Right. So this way you can share memory with the help of paging. You cannot do it with contiguous memory allocation. Okay, moving further now. So till now, when we were implementing the page table, we are using an array-based implementation. So the idea is for each page of a particular process, we have this big array, and this big array tells me where is page 0 mapped in the physical memory, where is page 1 mapped in the physical memory, so on and so forth. So what are some of the potential issues with this page table implementation? So let's say you have a 32-bit address space, right? That is your address, it has 32 bits. Let's say your page size is 4 kilobytes and you have one process which is 2 gigabytes in memory. So can you compute the size of page table for this process? So generally in 32-bit architectures, each of your process, it is given a 2 GB virtual address space. If it is 64-bit system, you have 4 GB virtual address space for each process, which is definitely huge. Why it is huge, we will talk about that. But assume that you have this 2 GB process. This is your page size. This is the number of address bits. Can you compute the size of page table? How big will it be? Or just approximate it. If not, tell me the exact size. You can assume the memory to be byte addressable. So you have 2 raised to the power 32 locations in the memory. Right. This is the size of your memory. This is the size of your page. And this is the size of your process. So how big will the page table be? So what is the size of page table? Again, reminding you the number of pages you have multiplied by the number of your frame bits, right? What is that? How many pages do you have? So the total size of your process is 2 gigabytes and the size of one page is 4 kilobytes. How many pages do you have? How much? Can you approximate it? That will be helpful. So can you tell me in megabytes, let's say? 500 megabytes. 5.2? 512. 512. Okay. Does anyone else have a different answer? So how many pages do we have? So number of pages is how much? You have a 2 GB process, which is 2 into 2 to the power 30 divided by the page size, which is 4 kilobyte. So 2 to the power 2 into 2 to the power 10, right? How much is it? So this cancel out. So 30 minus 11 is? Right, so we have 2 raised to the power 19 pages into how many bits we have to address a particular frame. Right, so we can compute it from the page size, right? Your page size is 2 to the power 12. Right, so this 12 is for offset. Right, 20 bits, right? Total is your 2 to the power 32 bits. So in a 32-bit address, you have 12 bits for offset. Remaining for frame bits, you have 20. But remember that this is in bits. So this is the size of your page table in bits. So try to convert it into bytes. So just solve it and you'll get an answer close to 1.25 megabytes. So you can actually break this. So you can actually make 2 to the power 20 into 10 and then you can break this 10 into 4 plus 6, something like that. And when you approximate it, it will be close to 1.25 megabytes, right? And this is for one page table. So this means that in our system, to just have this bookkeeping of how to convert your virtual address into a physical address, we need this page table. Size of one page table is coming out to be 1.25 megabyte. And if you have, let's say, bigger processes where a process is 4 gigabyte, this space can well go up to 2 megabytes. So 2 megabytes for one page table per process. You have like 100 processes running in your system. So 100 into 2 megabytes, 200 megabytes just for the page tables. Right? That's a total space overhead. Right? So previously we talked about the time overhead. So time overhead, we will be able to resolve it with the help of TLB. So you can put a small portion of your page table into cache. The problem with time was resolved here, but what about this additional space, this huge space which your page table is taking? What can we do regarding this? So we don't want to have such big page tables in our system, which takes like 2 megabytes of space. Okay. So the question now is, how can we decrease the size of this page table? Any idea? How can we decrease the size of page table? So if you look at your page table size, this is what we are again and again writing, right? It's a multiplication here, I'm sorry. So this is your page table size, right? Number of pages into number of bits to address frame number. So if you want to decrease the page table size, you'll have to decrease these two numbers. So you'll either have to decrease the number of pages or you decrease the number of bits to address the frame number of frame bits. Just to. How do you do that? So number of pages, it was your virtual address space, size of virtual address space divided by the size of each page. If you look at the number of frame bits, it was log of number of frames, right? So what can we do if we want to decrease these numbers? So how do you decrease the number of pages? Given this formula. You can decrease it by either decreasing the numerator or increasing the denominator, right? What can you do? Can you decrease the numerator or can you increase the denominator? We can increase the denominator, right? So if we increase the page size, we'll have lesser pages, and it's obvious also, right? We are dividing a particular process in pages. You increase the page size, you will have lesser pages. So we can do that. But what is the problem with that? Let's say it's a 2 gigabyte process. I increase the page size to 1 gigabyte. So there will only be 2 pages in the entire process. But will that be useful? So think about what problem we can have with increasing the page size. What happens if we keep like 2 small pages or if we keep 2 large pages? Both of them have their own problems. So 2 small pages, let's say 1 page is 1 byte, right? That doesn't make sense because then you will have an enormous number of pages, which we don't want. Then increase your number of pages. So take a look at this example. So let's say you have a process size which is 53 bytes. So you can have varying page sizes. You can have a page of 1 byte, you can have a page of 2 bytes, a page of 4 bytes, a page of 8 bytes, a page of 16 bytes, so on and so forth. So what is the problem associated with increasing this page size? Okay, tell me if we have 53 bytes, right, and each page is 2 bytes, how many pages will we have? 27, right? We'll have 27 pages. If you look at the last page, which is the 27th page, so in this 27th page, there are 2 bytes. This first byte is your last byte, which is the 53rd byte. If you look at this byte, right, it is free. It is an extra space which is allocated to this process. We said that it was internal fragmentation, right? This particular space, it is not being used by this process, but still you'll have an entry for this in the page table. Okay, what if your page size was 8 bytes? How many pages? 7, right? So after 48 bytes, the next page will consist up to 56, right? And you only have 53 bytes. So again, there will be these 3 bytes which are being wasted. Right? So this internal fragmentation, it increases. So very simple way of looking at it is, let's say a process is very small, just 2 kilobytes, let's say, right? So a very small process. If your page size is 2 kilobytes, it's well and good. This process will have only 1 page. If your page size is 4 kilobytes, anyhow, you'll have to have 1 page, right? So those 2 kilobytes will be wasted. So 4 kilobyte page, this particular process, it is using only 2 kilobytes. 2 kilobytes are again empty. If you have an 8 kilobyte page, you will be wasting 6 kilobyte of space. So as you keep increasing your page size, the amount of internal fragmentation, it increases. Right? And again, more and more memory gets wasted. So generally in your systems, we have your page size is of 4 kilobytes or 8 kilobytes, not more than that. So now we have sort of got an upper limit on the page size. So this page size is not flexible. I cannot always increase the denominator. So what else can we do? So think about why this page table is so big. So the second notion of it was the virtual address space, right? If this virtual address space is big, again you will have more number of pages, which will increase the size of the page table. Can we somehow decrease the virtual address space? So to each process, we are giving 2 gigabytes of memory or 4 gigabytes of memory, just like a big chunk. So can we do something with that? So in order to do something with that, realize that all the entries in your virtual address space, they are not valid. So let's say this is your complete process. This is your virtual address space. There are a lot of locations here, right? What do you think? Is every location valid? Is every location mapped to particular physical address or to a particular memory location, main memory location? Just now we said, right, if you look at this internal fragmentation, so this last page which you have in this process might not be full, right? So your process, it might be occupying maybe only this much space, right? This much space is actually not being utilized by the process. So it shouldn't be mapped anywhere. So let's say it starts from virtual address 0 and goes all the way up to virtual address 127. Let's say we have 125 here. So in case this process somehow generates a virtual address of 126, it should be an invalid virtual address because it is not mapped anywhere in your main memory. Right? So we should have a mechanism for that. So a mechanism for that is in your page table also, you have something which is called a valid invalid bit. So there are certain pages which are valid, which are actually mapped to some part of your main memory, and there are certain pages which are not mapped anywhere in the main memory. So in case if you get some virtual address corresponding to these pages which are not mapped anywhere in the main memory, there should be a trap, right? You should not be looking for the frame number corresponding to them. But why will that happen? Which will be these pages which will not be mapped anywhere in the main memory? So one is definitely this portion of your last page. Other than that, can you think of some other pages in your virtual address space which are not mapped anywhere in the physical memory? So the idea is certain addresses in this virtual address space which are not being used by the process. So remember the different segments which you have in a process. Right? Is there some part in those segments which is not utilized by the process always? If you look at a process, it looks something like this, right? These are the different portions. So you have text, data, heap, and stack, right? So if you look at this portion, look at this memory. This memory, which this process, it is using for heap and stack, right? It's not being utilized always. Why do we have this memory corresponding to heap and stack? This is actually the part where your process grows, right? As you need more and more of dynamic memory, the heap part grows. As you make more and more function calls, the stack part grows, right? But let's say you are at that time in your process where till now you haven't called any function or you haven't allocated any dynamic memory, then none of this space is being used by the process as of now. Right? And if you look at the virtual address space of this process, so all these pages which correspond to your stack and heap, they might not be in use at a particular time. So if they are not in use, they are not mapped anywhere in your physical memory. Right? So all these are your invalid pages. They won't have any image in the physical memory. Then the question is, why to even have these pages? So why do we give a process some space for stack and heap? So we can well say that initially, let's say I'll give 0 space for stack and heap, and as a process will make some function calls, and maybe as a process will request some dynamic memory, at that time I'll give it more space here and I'll grow the process. So what's the problem with that? So we said that a process, it gets 2 GB or 4 GB of virtual address space, and a good chunk of this 2 GB or 4 GB is actually here. So data and text part of your process are actually very small. The biggest part is for the stack and heap area. So why would you want to allocate a process 2 GB in the very beginning for this area? Why not just give it 0 GB and let it increase with time, let the process grow with time? What's the problem with that? So forget about paging for a moment and think about your contiguous memory allocation, right? This problem is not just in paging, it's even in your contiguous memory allocation. So let's say you're allocating your memory contiguously. So whenever a process comes, you will give it a 2 GB of address space, which will have all these parts. And then you will be looking for some space to keep this entire process in the memory. So you will be looking for a contiguous chunk of 2 GB in the main memory if you were doing a contiguous memory allocation. Now the question is, why don't we just leave the stack and heap area empty, right? So let's say this decreases this process size to 0.5 GB. So initially my virtual address space is 0.5 GB. Here is my area for stack and heap. And whenever this process, it will require some more memory, I will just grow this area. What is the problem with that? What is so difficult about the growth here? So let's say 0, 1, 2, or let's say something like 200. Let's say this 200 was particular address from where your stack starts, right? And now you want to give it some more memory. So let's say after stack, you have heap somewhere here, you have addresses all here. So if you want to grow this process somewhere in middle, you'll have to push everything down, right? Just like how it happens in an array. So see, if your process requires some additional memory, if you have to allocate this memory at the bottom of the process, then there is no problem. I have virtual addresses from 0 to 12. I'll give it some more memory and I'll make consecutive virtual addresses like 13 and 14. But what we are talking about here is, I want to grow this process somewhere in the middle. And if you are growing it in the middle, then all the addresses, virtual addresses which are here, you will need to change them. If you change them, and if you were using paging, all your virtual addresses will change, then all your mappings in the page table has to be changed, right? So generally, we give some pre-allocated space for stack and heap so that the process can easily grow when required, and you won't need to actually grow it during the execution time. So before your process starts executing, there is quite a big portion for your stack and heap, which the process can utilize during its execution time. It may or may not utilize, but if it wants to utilize, there is this much of free space available for this process, right? So when you actually look the virtual address space of a process, it looks something like this figure on the right hand side. So if you look at it, even in your virtual address space, not all the addresses are being used. So if you see here, this much portion is for program code, but this process, it is using only this much at a given time. This much is all free. Again, talking about your heap and stack, this much is being used for heap, this much is being used for stack, and all this is not in use. Right? So in this virtual address space, there are quite a lot of big chunks in between which are not being used by the process. But if you are doing a contiguous memory allocation, you'll allocate physical memory for this entire space, right, which is 16 KB. So this process here, if it is 16 KB in the virtual address space, a lot of addresses here which are not being used currently, but whenever you allocate it space in the memory, you are still going to allocate it 16 KB of physical memory. So how can we counter this now? There is now one more problem with this, which we haven't discussed earlier. So let's say it was a contiguous memory allocation, right? In your contiguous memory allocation, Your process virtual address space, it's starting from 0 going all the way up to 16 KB. Now, you do a contiguous memory allocation with the help of a base and limit register. So maybe your base register is, let's say, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is the address where your process is loaded in the memory. And what is the size of your limit register? It is 16 KB. Right? This process, it cannot generate a virtual address which is bigger than 16 KB. Now, what if this process somehow it generates a virtual address of, let's say, 9240? 9240 is somewhere here, right, in this part which this process is not using, in this free space, right? So what will be done? So based on your base and limit register, still you will be pointed to some physical memory, right, which will be what, 1234 plus 9240, which is again not safe. So we should actually be having a trap here that shouldn't be allowed. So how can we resolve this problem now? So the whole problem of this virtual address space having a lot of empty chunks in between, but all of them are being mapped to the physical memory, right? So the idea is, I do not want to map all of these portions to the physical memory. I only want this program code, this heap and this stack, the areas which are actually in use by the process. I want to allocate physical memory only to these particular parts. How can I do that? So remember that the only problem we have is, it is easy for us to grow a process at the bottom. It is difficult for us to grow a process in between. And that is the reason why we kept all these chunks here, because later we cannot just grow this process here. So we have some additional memory which we give to this process at the beginning. So in case this program code wants to grow, it can utilize this area which is free now. In case heap wants to grow, it can utilize this area which is free now. Right? That's why we are keeping all these free spaces here. Is there a way to get rid of this problem? And the hint is, it is always easy to grow a process at the bottom, not in the middle. Okay. So the solution to this is, what if I treat this process as 3 different processes? So let's say program code is nothing, but I treat it as a mini process. Heap is something which we treat again as a mini process. Stack is something which you can treat as a mini process. So each segment in your code, you consider that a process, right? And you load it in the main memory separately. So program code, it can sit somewhere in the main memory, right? And this area is only for your program code. Let's say somewhere here, right? And then I have heap. It can go and sit in altogether a different part of the memory, need not be contiguous. Similarly, stack can go and sit somewhere in the memory. In case program code requires more space, so this was the area of the program code where you have loaded it. At that time, you can increase the space for it. Right? So the idea is to again partition your process just like we were doing it in paging, but now we are not partitioning it into fixed size chunks. So in paging, what you were doing, let's say your page size was 3 KB. So you'll partition it somewhere here, then somewhere here, somewhere here. The idea is to partition it based on segments. So program code is one segment, heap is one segment, stack is one segment, and give a separate address in the physical memory to each of these segments. Later on, whenever any segment wants to grow, we can grow it at the bottom, just like we were doing it with the processes before. So we can do it something like this. Right? So if you look at this figure here now, this is your main memory. Look at this program code part. It is loaded here, right, from 32 KB onwards. The heap part, it is loaded here, and your stack part, it is loaded somewhere here, right? And all of these are independent of each other. In the physical memory, I am not giving them any additional space. So the program code here, so please note that still in the virtual address space of this register, program code has 4 KB. So this code can actually grow and it can go up to 4 KB. But when you are allocating a space to it in the physical memory here, to this code part, it is still only 2 KB here. It's not 4 KB. Right? So your process has this illusion as of now that it has 4 KB of space for your heap or for your stack. but in physical memory it has less. Same for the heap and same for the stack. Now, let's say heap wants to grow at some point in time. Right? Then still in the virtual address space, we have some portion for heap, it can grow. In the physical memory, whenever heap wants to grow, you can just increase the size here, right? Okay, what if code wants to grow? See, we again have the same problem which we were having with contiguous memory allocation. So here is your code segment loaded, here is your heap segment loaded, right? Let's say this particular segment wants to grow, right? It cannot grow because next to it is heap, right? It doesn't have that much of contiguous memory allocation, then you can relocate it, just how you were doing with contiguous memory allocation. Okay, let's look at a few things, it will make it clear. So what all we are doing is nothing but we are viewing a process as multiple mini processes. Each of the mini process we call it a segment. So here we have three segments, code, heap and stack. Similar to these processes, each of these segments they can have a base register and a limit register. So base register for code is 32K. So this tells you that this code, it will be loaded in the main memory starting from this location which is 32K. Its size is currently 2K. So this is the limit for program code. So if you generate an address which is somewhere here, you will get a trap because its limit is only 2K. So you cannot have a virtual address which sort of points somewhere here. It will result you a trap. Similarly for your heap, the base register is 34K. So it is the point here where your heap is getting loaded in the physical memory and its limit register is 3K. So again, you should not look for any address beyond that 3K space. Same holds for stack. How will you do the address translations here? Let's say you have a virtual address of 100 now. How will you do an address translation? This particular technique, it is called segmentation. Okay, so if we have a virtual address of 100, you see it will lie somewhere here in the code segment. So once you have the code segment, you know that the code segment, the base register for it is 32K. So this is the place from where it is starting in the memory, 32K, right? Virtual address is 100, code segment is starting from 0, then you can just add this 100 to 32K and you will get its address in the physical memory. Okay, what if the address is 4200? So 4200 is somewhere in the heap section. Right. How will you do an address translation? Heap section, it starts from 34K. 34K plus offset. What is the offset? Heap is starting from 4000. It is 200 here. You can just add a 200 here. If the virtual address is 8000, 8000 is somewhere over here. Right. So it still falls in this heap section. So you start with this 34K, but if you look at this limit register here size, which is 3K, right? This 8000 it exceeds 3K. So there will be a trap here. Okay, any question here? Are we done or do we need to add something to this figure? I expect a question here. How do you know which segment are we talking about? So let's say someone gives you, so this entire virtual address space, right? It is hidden. So we do not know where exactly is code, where exactly is heap, where exactly in stack. In this figure we know, but when in an instruction, you will get a virtual address. So let's say you get a virtual address of 4032, right? How do you convert it into physical address? How do you know to which segment it belongs and what is the offset? We do not know this entire layout of virtual address space, right? We only know this address, this virtual address 4032, and we have to convert it into a physical address. How do we do that? So the idea is to, just like we were using page number, to use something which is called a segment number. So for this particular example which you are seeing here, there is this 16 KB of virtual address space. So if you do some calculation, you can figure out for 16 KB, you will need an address of 14 bits. How much is 16 KB? 2 to the power 4 into 2 to the power 10, right? 2 to the power 14. So you'll need 14 bits for a particular virtual address here. And as we have seen, we have 3 segments here, right? So what we can do is 3 segments can be addressed with the help of how many bits? 2 bits, right? First segment can be 0, 0, second segment can be 0, 1, third can be 1, 0. So we reserve these first 2 bits for the segment and the remaining 12 bits for the offset. Now, whenever you have a virtual address, by looking at the first 2 bits, you can predict which segment is this. But then note that it also puts a limit on the size of your segment. Can you tell me what will be the size of a segment here? So just take a look at here, right? So in this particular figure, the first 2 bits, we are using them for segment, and the remaining bits, they are being used as offsets, right? So this code segment, it starts from 0, 0, and these last bits, they go from 0 to the maximum possible address here, right? So if you compute this, you can figure out that this is actually a 4 KB segment. So you can just figure out with the help of these 12 bits, how many locations can you address, and the answer is 4 KB. Right? So you have a code segment, which is a 4 KB. Similarly, we can have a heap segment. These first 2 numbers, they help us in identifying which segment we are talking about, and the remaining bits, we are using them as an offset. Okay, I'll come back to this figure, but before coming here, 2 things. Now you see the sharing of memory is all the more easier than paging here. Why? So if you go up, so many a times you have these header files, right? When we write a C code, we have stdio.h, and you might be running various C files. All of them are using stdio.h in their code portion, right? Should each of them have a separate, should have a copy of this file? No, right? That shouldn't happen. So the idea is in the physical memory, you have that one file stdio.h at exactly one place, and all the processes can use that. So that is also done with the help of something which is called segmentation. How can you do that? You can have a separate segment for the library files. So let's have a small segment here, let's say somewhere over here, or maybe after stack, or let me put it here, right? Something for the library files. It now becomes a separate segment. And what do we need to do in order for 2 processes to share these library files now? So let's say this is one process. There is another process sitting right here, which also has this library file, some particular library file. All we have to do is again map them to the same place. How can we map them to the same place? With the help of these registers. You can set the base and size for those registers to be same. So if corresponding to this particular segment for process 1, it has a base register of, let's say, 42K in your memory. For this another process which is also using the same library file, you can have the same base register of 42K. So in that way, both of these processes can now share this segment, right? Which is easier as compared to paging. So in paging, you have no notion of these segments. So you just page it randomly, right? So in one page, you can have some portion of code and some portion of heap. So that is easy on the mind of operating system, but not on the mind of compiler. Okay. So moving ahead. Now, which problem will we encounter here? Will it be internal fragmentation or external fragmentation? In paging, we were having internal fragmentation. So we were not like fully utilizing a particular page. There can be some space in a page which is not empty. What will happen here? Which fragmentation will you see? So if you look at this picture of segmentation, it is exactly similar to contiguous memory allocation. The only difference is instead of loading your entire process contiguously in the memory, you are dividing it into segments and then you are loading all those segments contiguously in the memory. So program code is one segment, you load it like a process in the memory somewhere contiguously. So this entire code lies at one place, right? We have done it contiguously with the help of the base and the limit register. Same holds for heap. As a separate mini process, it lies contiguously somewhere in the memory. So it is nothing but a contiguous memory allocation. So which problem will it suffer from? The same problem of holes, right? So all these segments, they are of variable size. So some segments will come, some segments will go away when a process finishes. You'll have all these holes of variable sizes and then the same problem can crop up. You can have these small holes which are useless, right? So this suffers from the problem of external fragmentation. Okay, I'll do one thing, I'll complete this picture tomorrow. So just take a look at whatever we have discussed and if there is any query, we can discuss that. So tomorrow we'll discuss if you are given in this segmentation policy, if you are given a virtual address, how do you convert it to a physical address? For segmentation, we have talked about it. We'll talk about one more policy here, which resolves this problem of external fragmentation. So the whole idea of segmentation is we are saving some memory. So all that process address space which is not being mapped anywhere, we are just saving that much of space and that is a huge space. So all that space for heap and stack which is not being utilized by the process, we are not allocating it any memory. In the traditional models which we have discussed before, we were even having physical memory for that.